Jesse here on episode 22 with Emma. Emma, welcome. Emma
Thank you.
is on the other side of the world from me. She's in Indonesia, so there is just a little bit of a delay. So if at any point throughout this conversation we have a little bit of overlap, that's why I will do our best to not talk over each other. I met Emma on Instagram. She is a sobriety life coach, and her mission, it seems, and I'll let you explain what your mission is, but is to help people along
Mm.
and inspire people to for sobriety. Why don't you introduce yourself, Emma?
Yes, hi guys. So I'm Emma. I'm 29 years old. A couple of weeks ago, I moved to Bali, Indonesia. I've battled with an active addiction for 12 years, and 3.5 years ago, I got sober. I started focusing on things that I like and reaching my full potential, and that led me to being the life coach and sobriety coach I am today from the other side of the world.
That's wonderful. So I think what I wanted to talk a little bit about today with you is your background. I'm always interested to hear somebody's story of how they got to where they are right now. So if you don't mind, let's kind of hear the journey from the beginning where your split happened, so to speak.
All right. So I was at a very young age. I've been through a lot of things when I was very young, call it childhood trauma. I couldn't cope with everything that happened to me when I was a little kid, so found my I found my way out in drugs at the age of 12. At first, it was alcohol addiction and smoking weed, smoking cigarettes. Later on, it turned into pills, into coke, and even more hard drugs at the age of 15. I landed on rehab by the age of 17 on coke and GHB. I got sober from hard drugs, never quit drinking. By the age of 18, I got into an accident that nearly cost me my life. 2 minutes later in the hospital, and I would have died. I wouldn't have been here anymore. This was so intense that I couldn't handle the feeling of this. And being alive was just a mind fuck to me. I was supposed to be dead. So waking up from a coma, I was like, what the hell happened? Um, but yeah, after that, 3 months later, I guess I got back on the hard drugs, and this time it was not only coke, but ketamine. It was speed. It was every accessible powder that I had. I got into a psychosis, and luckily I got out again. And a couple months later, I quit everything. Still didn't quit drinking and didn't quit smoking. Went back to school, graduated. Roughly 5 years of the hard drugs, and the last 6 months of my active addiction. Fast forward, I was 24. So it's been already 12 years in the active addiction. I was working in this restaurant, and I still, along the way, didn't have anything with therapies and stuff. I tried it, but I just didn't feel like it was my time yet, if that makes any sense. I wasn't ready. I was in such a bad state of mind, and I was diagnosed with depression, with PTSD. In that last 6 months, I was drinking so much, but like crazy. I got home drunk every single night from my work. I crashed on the floor, crying in tears, and just couldn't stop. And I think a couple months before I quit, one of my colleagues put cocaine on the table. I just snapped. It was right then and there that I just knew I had the biggest problem, and I just couldn't stop anymore. It was basically the second rock bottom that I was in. And I called the doctor after this happened. Was put on a waiting list for rehab, but as we all know, it takes forever to get the help you actually need. So this relapse happened 2 more times before I finally got help. And 1 week before I got into rehab again, I quit everything. And I haven't touched anything since, which is more than 3.5 years ago now.
When we were talking before we coordinated this episode, you had mentioned that you were from, correct me if I'm incorrect, was it Holland or Norway or
Yes, yes, Holland.
okay.
That club.
Holland,
That's
okay.
correct. Yeah.
What is, because I'm from America, I'm not familiar. What is the legal age for drinking in Holland? Is it more, is it very accessible? at that
Um,
young age, or were you around people that made
well,
it easy for you to obtain that kind of
uh,
stuff?
both, both.
Oh,
It was accessible from the age of 16 when I started drinking, but now I guess it's 18. It changed
okay.
during the years, but also, yes, I hung out with lots of elderly people, like at least 5 to 10 years older than I was.
Okay. And then you had mentioned about being in an accident at the age of 18. What do
Yeah,
you mind sharing what happened? Was it a
sure.
car accident?
No, I was actually chilling at this like lake close to my house, and people around me were playing with fire, and they were playing with mineral spirits. And as we all know, it's a big danger with fire. And there was an explosion in my face. I was
Wow.
the only person that got into this explosion. So yeah, I was the only person been taken to the hospital and stuff. But yeah, with a big explosion, you should just look at my face, and like basically all my skin was just gone, all my hair was gone, and my
Really?
airways got burned as well. It was massive. Yeah. Luckily I
Wow.
jumped into the water. Yeah. So that saved me. That saved my skin. It was second and third degree of like the wounds. But yeah,
Your
God
skin looks
protected me.
so nice now.
It does.
That's incredible. Wow.
Thank you.
During that time of recovery, were you prescribed pills? Is that when you did get into pills? Is when you were prescribed that, or how did that transition happen, or what was that like recovering from that in the midst of that addiction?
Um, in the midst of my addiction and being in this accident, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so it was just like I mentioned before, the biggest mind fuck for me was look, had I've done the worst things in my life before this accident happened. Like the worst. I completely fucked up my life. Excuse me for my language, but
You
I
can say
did.
whatever the fuck you want.
Um, Great.
Go.
So yeah, I was okay with dying. When it actually happened, I was like, it was fine. I was so calm, and all the people around me were screaming and panicking and yelling and trying to call like the emergency numbers and stuff. But yeah, I was just calm. I was okay with dying. I had completely accepted the fact. So me waking up from the coma was just like I shouldn't have been here. It should have been over. And don't get me wrong, of course, today I'm very, very grateful and happy that I'm still here. But back then I wasn't. I was so deep in my depression already that I just wasn't happy to be alive. So yeah, recovering from that, I think it was more of a mental issue than it was physical. My skin healed so fast. They were even surprised in the hospital. They told me that I had to stay at least 3 weeks in the intensive care, but I left the hospital after 5 days.
Wow.
It was massive. I don't know what happened, but yeah, a true miracle. I just call it God. And
Yeah.
yeah, recovering from that, I had the last chance of passing my exams in school. So I don't know how I did it, but I did it. So I was more focused on doing that than recovery. And, and yeah, the 3 months after this accident, that's when I was, when I relapsed. Yeah.
Okay.
So it
Okay.
was just like coping with the feeling again. And I didn't have the feeling that I could talk with friends about what happened. I didn't see any benefits of therapy back then, but my friends didn't let me talk about the situation. They were more like, yeah, okay, whatever, Emma, you're still alive. Be happy and just get over it. So, yeah, I kept everything inside, and that's what made me relapse.
Did you find during your recovery, this final time when you found that spirituality that you had mentally maybe revisited that event and the way that you felt about yourself at the time, that you were okay with it all ending at that time? Is that something you revisited during your recovery?
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that thought until I got into therapy when I got sober for the last time. I didn't
Okay.
even realize that was the thing happening.
So you had your accident, you relapsed after 3 months of recovering from the accident. During that 3 months, that time,
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that you had your finals that you completed. Was that before or after relapsing?
Before.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
before.
So and then you had mentioned you relapsed two different times? Was that the first or the second or
It was the first time.
okay.
Yeah,
So, so then
yeah,
you're using again for a little bit longer, doing different
yeah,
substances and powders. How long until the next moment?
yeah. So I did this relapse. I was into it for 3 months. Um, and then I quit. I have to quote unquote that because along the way I never quit drinking because it was so socially accepted. I didn't see that as any problem at all. I didn't quit smoking cigarettes. I didn't quit smoking weed. Um, but I just call it like quitting from hard drugs. So along the way in school again, I was pretty much sober from hard drugs for about 5 years before I relapsed for the last time in the last like part of my active addiction.
Okay, gotcha. What, what did you at all notice maybe a trend between the two times that you had relapsed? Was there some sort of similar situation that maybe caused that relapse? Are you familiar with what it was that did cause that relapse?
It was all a mental game. It
Okay.
was all the mental game and not reaching out for help. I knew I had a problem. When I was 17, I got into rehab. Of what I told you before, it was like my teachers in school, they asked me to come over and talk to them because they already had seen like I was going downhill very, very fast. So they introduced me to rehab and they made sure that I got the help but I was so young. I was 17 years old. Like I remember this person talking to me at the other side of the table. She was just sitting there like, yeah, do you know actually what the drug does to you long term? I was like, of course I do, but I'm not stupid. Like that's not the problem. I know I have mental issues that I should work on. I know I have trauma that I should work on, but give me the help that I need. Instead of I was just blaming the world. I think
Yeah.
that's the baseline. I was just blaming the world along the way of my active addiction. I was blaming my parents for the way I grew up. I was blaming school for being too easy or being too difficult. I was blaming the people around me that were addicted, everyone except myself.
Yeah,
And that changed after the last time.
having some accountability for yourself. It's really important.
Yeah, definitely.
What role did spirituality play in your sobriety? So this final time that you decided to get clean, was that the difference this final time compared to the other two times is that you were maybe more maintaining a focus on God and your connection to God and that spirituality?
I think God has always been a part of my life, but I think the time that I actually got connected to him was way later than that even. It was like a year ago or something like that, maybe a little bit longer. So I
Okay.
was already 2.5 years in my sobriety when I got like connected with God even more. But what changed like the last time, I lost everything. I lost my mom. I remember her texting me like, we have all like our trouble going on in our minds. We have all our mental challenges and things, but we never reached out to drugs and we had an agreement and you broke it again. So losing her, losing my dad, losing the people around me, my job, myself, my mind, my heart, everything. I just realized I had a problem, needed to stop.
Have you reached out to your parents since?
Yeah, me and my mom, we are best friends basically now.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you're able to mend that relationship.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah. I can only imagine how difficult it is for parents to see their children struggling. That was something that ran through my mind a lot when I was going through my transition was, do I want my parents' final 10 or 15 years on earth to see all that work that they put into their son
yeah,
what do I want them to see in their final decade of life? Do I want them to see
yeah,
somebody that can't make it, or do I want to be that person that has figured it out and somebody that's strong? And I'm not doing it just for them. You got to do it for yourself also. But I am a parent to three children, and I can only imagine maybe how much that would really make the heart hurt watching your kids struggling like that. I think for my future, as
The
my kids
worst.
get older, definitely I probably be able to understand a lot of that struggle. But like you said earlier, when you're telling your story, it's when you're ready to make that change. And
Yeah,
s- a lot of times, the people around you want it to happen sooner for good reason. But when the time is right, the time is right.
that's so
Think
true.
of think about somebody that is really struggling in their 40s and 50s and still hasn't figured it out yet. That's gotta I really feel for people that go through that because that's such a big
Yeah,
burden and such a weight on the shoulders. That's for sure.
yeah, so true.
So you and I, before this episode, we talked about different tools that we use to maintain a grounded sense of awareness. W- You often go to the gym on a daily basis. I think I saw on one of
Yes.
your posts that you read Proverbs daily as well. Is that true? What,
Yeah.
do you tell us a little bit about that and maybe anything else that you do to maintain your healthy way of living?
So yeah, since I got sober, I started journaling. I always was like, does that really help? But yeah, it does. And
It
not
does help.
only for your feelings, but also to get like a better picture of your future visions and stuff. Like as an addict in an active addiction, you lost completely the vision of everything in your life. So writing things down and daring to dream again, it really helps. So yeah, I do that on a daily basis every evening. Also, I read the Bible since a year. Um, and I do feel that gives me a lot of calms. Um, yeah, I don't know. It brings me, so, yeah, it just brings me so, it makes me so calm. It makes me feel so peaceful. And especially combining it with going to the beach at night and reading it there. When it's already dark, I even do my prayers at the beach when there's not really much people around. Um, it's so open, it's so spacious that I feel really connected to God. It helps me to stay calm in my mind, basically, to just be able to listen to his word and his vision. Um, yeah, I think that really helps me. What also helps me is the gym. I started to when I first got when I got sober again 3.5 years ago. I started to do a course to become a personal trainer. I was just looking over my life, like what has been something that I was always interested in. What can I do to change like the current job that I was doing? And it was becoming a personal trainer. Along the way, I've developed my skills, so helping people in the gym, but also I am there basically 24/7 because I'm training for a competition now by the end of the year. I'm going to compete in bodybuilding. So yeah, I'm really excited for that one.
Okay.
Um, and I think one of the biggest things that I've been talking about with some of my clients too, something that I really see along the way, what also helped me, stepping into your full potential. There's a lot of things that we struggle with as an addict is just like you work this 9 to 5 for a boss and you just, after school you get into this job and you just lose who you are. You lose what your interests are. You lose your passion. You just go to your work and you get home every evening. You just have the same simple foods and, strike on the couch and watch a movie or TV shows until you sleep. That's what life is for most of us. And I think escaping that type of life and just stepping into what I truly want and what I truly am passionate about, that's what helps me staying grounded too. So it's basically my work today.
Yeah, a couple of things to that. One, that realization that I had
Yeah.
myself was I need to chase my dreams. And it's something that I never did when I was younger, is never actually chase my dreams. I just chased money instead of my dreams. And something that
Mm.
I realized when chasing my dreams
Yeah.
was as you're immersing yourself in whatever field that you believe your dreams are, you're able to somehow figure out if it's something that you're actually passionate about or if it was something that was maybe just a mild short fantasy. And if you are actually chasing
Mm.
those dreams and pursuing those thoughts, that's when you learn most about yourself and maybe what brings you that joy and brings you that happiness.
Mm.
This whole idea of working a 9 to 5 is relatively new to the human race. if you think about, and I'm speaking about this region of the world, but if you're thinking about the 17 and the 1800s before the Industrial Revolution, families worked together on farms. Families relied on other families in the neighborhood for supplies from each other. Maybe one neighbor would have salt, while the other
Yeah,
neighbor would have wool for sheep. Right? We didn't go and put all this effort into corporations to not build that asset at all. We invest, sometimes we invest 50 or
yeah,
60 hours into these big companies, and you could quit and that company still goes on tomorrow. You don't even get a slice of that pie. Maybe they have profit sharing or some other opportunities, but
yes,
you're not building and working for yourself. And from what I see with what your
mm,
path is and what my path is similarly is what we're chasing here is what is actually natural to us as humans, which is just working for ourselves and being our own individual.
yeah,
So I I
yeah.
totally
So true, so
I
true.
totally agree with where you're at on that.
Yeah.
What healing tools have been the most powerful for you personally, if we're talking specifically again about the either it's working out or reading the Bible. When you have like those toughest moments, what are some coping? What is a coping mechanism? Let's say it's 9 o'clock at night for Emma, and you've done everything that you normally do on a normal daily basis. You're
Yeah.
maybe laying in bed and you're bored and you're sitting there like, damn, I could really use a drink right now, or I could really use a hit. What's something to expel that energy out of your body? What do you do?
Well, a funny thing is, coming back to that, there is never a moment like that in my life anymore that I lay down in bed at 9 p.m. I'm sleeping, that's for sure. But if I was bored, I'm never bored. Never. That's the thing with stepping into your full potential and building your own business. I am
Yeah.
never bored, never, because if I'm building what I truly want to achieve, I'm busy doing that all fucking day. And there's like, yes, I wake up at 4 a.m. I'm on. I'm reading the Bible, do my prayer, and I'm on. 6 a.m. in the gym until 8 a.m. And after that, I'm working. I'm working all day. That's it. It's just like, and I enjoy so much working, like the client calls. I enjoy messaging the DMs. Yes, I'm behind for a couple of days, but it's just like I
Yeah.
enjoy this. There's not a second that I'm bored. When I get into an emotional state, because yes, we're still human and life happens to us sometimes. There is a moment sometimes that I think, okay, maybe I'd like to have a drink or I'd like to have a lime. But that moment passes so quick now. It's just like I have never given in anymore since the past 3.5 years. And I'm so focused on what I want to achieve and my goal and my journey that I will never, never, never let any drug or substance get in the way anymore. It's not worth it.
So overall, it's just your determination and then also having a routine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
again, you have a
definitely.
goal, and those
Yeah.
things get in the way of that goal.
Yeah, for sure.
What are a common theme that you see in some of your clients that are struggling? Is there something maybe that they all share other than the addiction part of it?
Well, first, of course, it's all trauma. And some of them are like, yeah, but I was in a happy family and, I had access to everything that I wanted. Yeah, but still there was a lack of love from a parent or something else, something going on with your family, like outside of your parents. There's all like childhood things that's been going on. That's one. And number two, lack of self-love, lack of love from others, um, feeling lonely, having no vision and fear. Fear is a big thing as well.
Are you familiar with a psychologist being an empath?
Mm. In what case?
So, for example, when a psychologist listens to maybe their clients' issues, sometimes they might take on that energy, so to speak. So, for instance, what they say a lot of times with therapists are is when you go to see a therapist will try to relate with their client. So the therapist will then begin giving examples from their life to the client. And then now the client, with the issues that they
Yeah.
have, they're now compounding the therapist's issues, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously. And then it's the same, it's the other way around where the client is constantly unloading that energy onto that therapist. And if that therapist isn't familiar with how to process that energy correctly, it can become like this onion of layers of line to untangle. Do you, when listening to some of your clients talk about their struggles, does that, do you ever feel an impact on that? You know, mentally, does it weigh you down, or how do you avoid
It
allowing
used to.
that energy to weigh you down?
It used to. But not since working online, I don't really have that because it's like it's very personal having those calls, but you're still having a certain distance, if that makes sense. You can see things better from another perspective. As I was working in rehab, physical, um, I don't know, you had these deeper chats going on, and I remember me going home after my job at rehab, and I would feel so heavy on the chest, like knowing what all these people had been through and then still struggling and so difficult. That was really heavy for me. But since working online and I don't know, maybe getting into this coaching a little bit longer, I'm able to, yeah, just, of course I care. Of course I
Yeah.
care and I have the best interest for everyone, but caring and wanting the best for everyone and willing to help them to achieve their goals is different than letting it impact you, I think,
Yeah,
if
I
I explained
agree.
that correctly.
It's human nature to feel a certain way for somebody when you hear their story. But as you
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
it's also important, you know, to want the best for them, but then also help and guide them with the right decisions. Where do
yeah.
you, where do most people that you help out, where do you see them get stuck the most in their healing journey?
Well, a lot of people they reach out to me that still are in an active addiction, and I think that's for sure something that most of us get stuck. Is quitting. It's just the first step. They get stuck in in substance abuse. Once they get out and they have the right help, the right tools, they will make it, and they will have like I think what's different with my job and actual rehab is that I've lived it, you have lived it. So we talking to our clients is different because they feel understood. They feel understood. They know, like looking at us as a person, you can get out, and yes, your life can still be successful without drugs, or it can get successful again without drugs. But I
Mm.
think the most common thing is for everyone staying stuck in substance abuse.
Yeah, the hardest part is putting it down and walking away from it. I can definitely see that.
Yeah,
Walk me walk me
yeah,
through the process of working with Emma. What so I'm a potential client and I'm reaching out for help. What does that look like?
yeah. So, well, first of all, we need to make sure if you're still in active addiction or if you're already out of it, because if you're stepping out, that means you can work with me straight away. If you're still in an active addiction, rehab is your first place to go because I'm no doctor and I'm no official therapist. Yes, I'm a coach, but I cannot prescribe you any medication. So that's be sure. After rehab and when you get sober, it's time for you to rebuild your life. And that's where I'm in picture because that's what I have missed when I first got sober was someone that understood me and someone that could help me getting my routine back on track and getting my mindset game on and my physique and everything, my nutrition. So I work with my clients for 6 months. And in these 6 months, we're developing your mindset, we're developing your routine. We create the physique that you wanted, and or at least get you on your way to that physique. We have the nutrition plan on point. We have weekly calls where we have coaching calls, where we go dig deep into. family history, into any trauma related things that still are still notice things at in the future, like in the present. So everything is relatable to the past, and just I give you tools how to deal with that, and how to get better, and how to step away from certain feelings. Um, we have daily contact. I want my clients to start journaling and to start like seeing me as a kind of dairy. So they just write to me every morning how they're feeling, how they sleep, and what they want to plan for the day and what they want to achieve. And by night, just getting to the routine again. Send me a message. How did it go? And what didn't you do? What can be better? So yeah, that's basically it. And within 6 months, everything changed.
Did you mention, I think I heard you mention nutrition
Mm.
as part of a way of healing, which
Yeah,
I completely agree
yeah,
with. Do you
yeah.
have many clients in America?
Two actually. Yeah.
Do they mention the struggle with nutrition over here in America?
They didn't mention the struggle, but I know from one of my clients that it is a struggle.
It's
Yeah,
it
for sure.
the food situation in this country is terrible. It's
Yeah,
horrible. And almost
yeah, it
everything
is.
in the grocery store is processed. Um, as far as
Yeah,
like fruit and vegetables go, they're all sprayed with different pesticides. The grain that we get is enriched folic acid grain. It's a situation where it feels like the people here are being poisoned and they're feeling
yeah,
down and they feel depressed and then they're prescribed antidepressants and anxiety
mm,
medication to mask those things, but really all it creates
yeah,
is a deeper and deeper hole because
yeah,
it's something that a lot of people don't realize as to what's keeping them down. Uh,
yeah,
so I can see that from an American perspective where being healthy is incredibly hard and it's also expensive too. You
it
know,
is.
you can go to an organic grocery store here, but you're going to pay double for even a gallon of milk
Yeah,
compared to what, you know, your regular
yeah,
big box store carton of milk is. So I can only imagine. And I talk about it a lot with my guests on this show is the overall situation here as far as food and the medical industry go. In
yeah.
Indonesia, what are grocery stores like?
They're so good. Everything
Yeah.
is just so fresh, and yeah, yeah, it's all good. Yeah, no
Okay.
complaints.
What is the like the most dominant fruit that you see there? Like in my region during the summertime, it's like strawberries. You know, and
Yeah.
during the wintertime, there's nothing growing here in Minnesota. We import everything.
Here, here is basically all year round. What I always have here is dragon fruits, is
Okay.
mango, and bananas with like the small ones. They're really nice. And watermelon.
Watermelon. What's your stance or belief
Yeah,
on watermelons with seeds and seedless watermelon? Is there seedless watermelon in Indonesia?
no,
Have you ever heard of seedless
no.
watermelon?
They're manipulated. Yeah, they're manipulated. Don't buy it.
I it's I looked it up. I think it was last week. The seeds inside of a watermelon have like the same amount of nutrition. Like one seed has the same amount of nutrition as a whole entire watermelon. And we again in America we make them so
So
there's no
funny.
seeds in the watermelon. It's something
Crazy.
else. Yeah, it's we here in America we have a political situation right now where we did get a new health secretary in that's taking the food dyes out of food and really addressing these things and it's seen as
Mm,
controversial, but I think if we were just to look
yeah.
around the world with how Europe treats their food, Asia, different continents, there's a lot of lessons that we could learn
Mm.
for sure. Tell me a little bit about your
Yeah, but I
journey.
think
Oh, go
going
ahead.
back to, sorry,
No, go for it.
going back to Europe, like I'm from Amsterdam, and I've lived there the past 10 years before I moved here. First of all, I would pay heaps of money for my groceries. That's for sure. It's massive. and everything there is processed as well.
Is it
Like
really?
if I buy my chicken here, it's just and maybe they're slaughtered yesterday. I'm sorry, I
Right.
was always vegan, so talking about chicken is since a year is weird. But yeah, since I bought my chicken again here, it was just like it's so fresh. It's like it's there in like a box, and you just buy it. It's from yesterday, and whereas in Amsterdam or America, probably you just bought it, and then the chicken it has been slaughtered maybe 1 month ago, and it's been in its package sealed like disgusting. It's
Yeah.
so weird. But yes, I used to eat that. And being here, eating like the more fresh foods is a big difference for my physical health for sure.
Something our shaman said in Costa Rica was when you eat food, make sure the food is alive. Meaning, if you are preparing a dinner, you're getting enough ingredients at the grocery store to make for that one dinner. You're not
Yeah.
you're not saving leftovers and eating out of the fridge the next day. You're making every single meal fresh because the nutrients in that food it comes from when you cook it the first time. If you nuke it and warm it up in the microwave the second or the third time, it doesn't have that same amount of nutrients that it did the first time.
Mm.
So I did have a question for you about social media and kind of your journey and building your following. To anybody out there that wants a similar path and building a following, what are some tips that you have for gaining a following and also kind of creating that I would say self-employed business for yourself? What are
Yeah.
some keys to that success?
Well, I started doing this. I started working with my business coach in December or January. I don't really remember. So yeah, almost half a year ago. Um, I was so scared to do this, and I was comparing myself to all the other platforms that are there, all the other people. But I think the most, I was actually talking with my man about this as well, this morning and yesterday, being authentic. That's number one. People want to see you and not like this other girl that has been in Instagram already over 10 times in different accounts. They want to see you and they want to see your stories. So make it personal, being authentic. And don't be afraid to fail. I failed. I failed big time. Yeah. So yeah.
It's part of it is failing, right?
Yeah,
And
for
accepting
sure.
it.
Yeah.
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 I've always felt with this podcast that I have never edited anything out. Whatever is out there is raw for that reason is
Yeah.
I used to take like guitar lessons when I was young.
Yeah.
And my teacher always said if you make a
Nice.
mistake, make sure everybody hears it. So
That's so good.
yeah, and it's the same thing with what you're saying is fail and fail loud and just bounce back the next day and keep trying. I got a
Yeah.
question for
So
you
true. So true.
about what's coming up here. I've been talking with a couple astrologers. I also have done this meditation practice through this energy uh, entity, if you want to call it that, qigong. Have you ever heard of qigong before? It's
No,
like a
I haven't.
okay, it's like a certain type of energy exercise meditation thing. I'm kind of a hippie. And
Interesting.
yeah. Anyways, the qigong and astrologers are saying there are a lot of energy workers. They're calling July of this year is going to be very intense. Do you feel any sort of energy in the world right now? One last example I'll give you is on Saturday, this last Saturday, I was I was extremely slow and I didn't have a lot. I felt like the energy had been sucked out of my body. And when if I would get up, I would feel like a little bit of like dizziness and weakness. And when I was on Twitter, I had seen one of the pages I've follow had said, "Is anybody else feeling this way?" And there was at least a thousand comments of people saying, "Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel the same way." I'm asking everybody around the world that I know, have you felt, do you feel something is about on the verge of happening, or did you feel any type of energy reduction this last weekend?
No, actually, no. I
Okay.
didn't feel it.
Okay.
No.
I'm glad you didn't. I don't want you to. I'm just curious. Awesome. All right. Well, other than that, do you have any final thoughts for us?
No. Do you have any
No.
more questions for me?
I don't have a whole lot. I think we answered all those questions that we had. And other than that, go ahead and promote yourself, promote your Instagram. I'll put it in the description as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing because my last name is a little bit difficult. It's from Belgium. So yeah, people can find me on Instagram. That's where I work the most. So it's just Emma.Watteeuw. So yeah, please check the description for how you write that. Yeah, just feel free to shoot me a DM. And as I mentioned before, my DMs are extremely busy, but I will make sure to get back to everyone that sends me a message very, very soon. Um, so yeah, I'm posting there basically all my life and I'm open for questions. I'm open for booking calls and I'm open for helping everyone around me. So yeah, I'm very, very keen to see people coming in on my page and connecting with the new ones.
Well, Emma, I have to say I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and speak with me and the listeners on this episode. And I will definitely your Instagram page will be in the description for anyone to follow or to reach out if anybody feels like they're struggling. And I guess my final message to anybody that is kind of going through what Emma and I had gone through is just when you're ready, and don't be afraid to ask for help because there are wonderful people out there just like Emma that are ready to help you out. So if that is all we have, I want to say thank you to everybody listening. Like, subscribe the page. Emma's Instagram page will also be in the description. Thank you.
Thank you.